is daytime, and also my hair is a mess, but my boyfriend left the house early today, so I'm taking advantage of some of the quiet to read this. Mockingjay, I'm with you. Alright, I've already read chapter 1. I will link it up here somewhere, and if you haven't seen that, go ahead and check it out first. Oh, it's already open to the page, you guys, please. Alright. Let's just go ahead and jump in to chapter 2. I believe last we left off, Katniss went to go see what remained of District 12, and they're currently staying at District 13, which they didn't even know existed until recently. Okay. Are there capital? Let me bring you guys. Let me bring the mic a little bit closer. Let me bring it a little bit closer. Right here, a little bit closer. Okay. Are there capital hoverplanes speeding in to blow us out of the sky? As we travel over District 12, I watch anxiously for signs of an attack, but nothing pursues us. After several minutes, when I hear an exchange between Plutarch and the pilot, confirming that the airspace is clear, I begin to relax a little. Gil nods at the howls coming from my game bag. Now I know why you had to go back. If there was even a chance of his recovery. I dump the bag onto a seat where the loathsome creature begins a low, deep-throated growl. Oh, shut up, I tell the bag as I sink into the old cushion windowed seat across from it. Gale sits next to me. Pretty bad down there. Couldn't be much worse, I answer. I look into his eyes and see my own grief reflected there. Our hands find each other, holding fast to a part of 12 that snow has somehow failed to destroy. We sit in silence for the rest of the trip to 13, which only takes about 45 minutes. A mere week's journey on foot. Bonnie and Twill, the District 8 refugees who I encountered in the woods last winter, weren't so far from their destination after all. They apparently didn't make it, though. When I asked them about them in 13, no one seemed to know who I was talking about. Died in the woods, I guessed. From the air, 13 looks about as cheerful as 12. The rubble isn't smoking the way the capital shows it on television, but there's next to no life above ground. In the 75 years since the dark days, when 13 was said to have been obliterated in the war between the capital and the districts, almost all new construction has been beneath the Earth's surface. There was already a substantial underground facility here, developed over centuries to be either a clandestine refuge for government leaders in time of war, or a last resort for humanity if life above became unlivable. Most important for the people of 13, it was the center of the capital's nuclear weapons development program. During the dark days, the rebels in 13 wrested control from the government forces, trained their nuclear missiles on the capital, and then struck a bargain. They would play dead in exchange for being left alone. The capital had another nuclear arsenal out west, but it couldn't attack 13 without certain retaliation. It was forced to accept 13's deal. The capital demolished the visible remains of the district and cut off all access from the outside. Perhaps the capital's leaders thought that, without help, 13 would die off on its own. It almost did a few times, but it always managed to pull through due to strict sharing of resources, strenuous discipline, and constant vigilance against any further attacks from the capital. Now the citizens live almost exclusively underground. You can go outside for exercise and sunlight, but only at very specific times in your schedule. You can't miss your schedule. Every morning, you're supposed to stick your right arm in this contraption in the wall. It tattoos the smooth inside of your forearm with your schedule for the day in a sickly purple ink. 7 a.m. breakfast, 7:30 kitchen duties, 8:30 education center room 17, and so on. The ink is indelible until 10 p.m. Bathing. That's when whatever keeps it water resistant breaks down and the whole schedule rinses away. The lights out at 10:30 signals that everyone not on the night shifts should be in bed. At first, when I was so ill in the hospital, I could forego being imprinted. But once I moved into compartment 307 with my mother and sister, I was expected to get with the program. Except for showing up for meals, though, I pretty much ignore the words on my arm. I just go back to our compartment or wander around 13 or fall asleep somewhere hidden. An abandoned air duct behind the water pipes in the laundry. There's a closet in the education center that's great because no one ever seems to need school supplies. They're so frugal with things here. Waste is practically a criminal activity. Fortunately, the people of 12 have never been wasteful. But once I saw Fulvia Cardew crumple up a sheet of paper with just a couple of words written on it, and you would have thought she'd murdered someone from the look she got. Her face turned tomato red, making the silver flowers inlaid in her plump cheeks even more noticeable. The very portrait of excess. One of my few pleasures in 13 is watching the handful of pampered Capitol rebels squirming as they try to fit in. I don't know how long I'll be able to get away with my complete disregard for the clockwork precision of attendance required by my hosts. Right now, they leave me alone because I'm classified as mentally disoriented. It says so right on my plastic medical bracelet, and everyone has to tolerate my ramblings, but that can't last forever. Neither can their patience with the Mockingjay issue. From the landing pad, Gail and I walk down a series of stairways to compartment 307. We could take the elevator, only it reminds me too much of the one that lifted me into the arena. I'm having a hard time adjusting to being underground so much, but after the surreal encounter with the Rose, for the first time, the descent makes me feel safer. I hesitate at the door marked 307, anticipating the questions from my family. What am I going to tell them about 12? I ask Gail. I doubt they'll ask for details. They saw it burn. They'll mostly be worried about how you're handling it. Gail touches my cheek, like I am. I press my face against his hand for a moment. I'll survive. Then I take a deep breath and open the door. My mother and sister are home for 6 p.m. reflection. A half hour of downtime before bed. I see the concern on their faces as they try to gauge my emotional state. Before anyone can ask anything, I empty my game bag and it becomes 6 p.m. Cat adoration. Brim just sits on the floor weeping and rocking that awful Buttercup, who interrupts his purring only for an occasional hiss at me. He gives me a particularly smug look when she ties the blue ribbon around his neck. My mother hugs the wedding photo tightly against her chest and then places it, along with the book of plants, on our government-issued chest of drawers. I hang my father's jacket on the back of a chair. For a moment, the place almost seems like home, so I guess the trip to 12 wasn't a complete waste. We're heading down to the dining hall for 6:30 dinner when Gail's communicuff begins to beep. It looks like an oversized watch, but it receives print messages. Being granted a communicuff is a special privilege that's reserved for those important to the cause, a status Gail achieved by his rescue of the citizens of 12. They need the two of us in command, he says. Trailing a few steps behind Gail, I try to collect myself before I'm thrown into what's sure to be another relentless Mockingjay session. I linger in the doorway of command, the high-tech meeting/war council room, complete with computerized talking walls, electronic maps showing the troop movements in various districts, and a giant rectangular table with control panels I'm not supposed to touch. No one notices me, though, because they're all gathered at a television screen at the far end of the room that airs the Capitol broadcasts around the clock. I'm thinking I might be able to slip away when Plutarch, whose ample frame has been blocking the television, catches sight of me and waves urgently for me to join them. I reluctantly move forward, trying to imagine how it could be of interest to me. It's always the same. War footage, propaganda. Replay replaying the bombings of District 12, an ominous message from President Snow. So it's almost entertaining to see Caesar Flickerman, the eternal host of the Hunger Games, with his painted face and sparkling suit, preparing to give an interview, until the camera pulls back and I see that his guest is PETA. A sound escapes me, the same combination of gasps and groan that comes from being submerged in water, deprived of oxygen to the point of pain. I push people aside until I'm right in front of him, my hand resting on the screen. I search his eyes for any sign of hurt, any reflection of the agony or torture. There's nothing. PETA looks healthy to the point of robustness. His skin is glowing, flawless in that full-body polish way. His manners composed, serious. I can't reconcile this image with the battered, bleeding boy who haunts my dreams. Caesar settles himself more comfortably in the chair, across from PETA, and gives him a long look. So, PETA, welcome back. PETA smiles slightly. I bet you thought you'd done your last interview with me, Caesar. I confess I did, said Caesar, the night before the quarter quell. Well, whoever thought we'd see you again? It wasn't part of my plan, that's for sure, says PETA with a frown. Caesar leans in to him a little. I think it was clear to all of us what your plan was. To sacrifice yourself in the arena so that Katniss Everdeen and your child could survive. That was it, clear and simple. PETA's fingers traced the upholstered pattern on the arm of the chair. But other people had plans as well. Yes, other people had plans, I think. Has PETA guessed, then, how the rebels used us as pawns? How my rescue was arranged from the beginning. And finally, how our mentor Hamish Abernathy betrayed us both for a cause he pretended to have no interest in. In the silence that follows, I noticed the lines formed between PETA's eyebrows. He has guessed, or he has been told, but the Capitol has not killed or even punished him. For right now, that exceeds my wildest hopes. I drink in his wholeness, the soundness of his body and mind. It runs through me like the morphling they give me in the hospital, dulling the pain of the last weeks. Why don't you tell us about that last night in the arena, suggests Caesar. Help us sort a few things out. PETA nods, but takes his time speaking. That last night. To tell you about that last night. Well, first of all, you have to imagine how it felt in the arena. It was like being an insect trapped under a bowl filled with steaming air. And all around you, jungle, green and alive and ticking. That giant clock ticking away your life, every hour promising some new horror. You have to imagine that in the past 2 days, 16 people have died, some of them defending you. At the rate things are going, the last 8 will be dead by morning, save one, the victor. And your plan is that it won't be you. My body breaks out in a sweat at the memory. My hand slides down the screen and hangs limply at my side. PETA doesn't need a brush to paint images from the games. He works just as well in words. Once you're in the arena, the rest of the world becomes very distant, he continues. All the people and things you loved or cared about almost cease to exist. The pink sky and the monsters in the jungle and the tributes who want your blood become your final reality, the only one that ever mattered. As bad as it makes you feel, you're going to have to do some killing, because in the arena, you only get one wish, and it's very costly. It costs your life, says Caesar. Oh no, it costs a lot more than your life. To murder innocent people, says PETA, it costs everything you are. Everything you are, repeats Caesar quietly. A hush has fallen over the room, and I can feel it spreading across Panem. A nation leaning in towards its screens, because no one has ever talked about what it's really like in the arena before. PETA goes on. So you hold on to your wish. And that night, that last night, yes, My wish was to save Katniss. But even without knowing about the rebels, it didn't feel right. Everything was too complicated. I found myself regretting I hadn't run off with her earlier in the day, as she had suggested. But there was no getting out of it at that point. You were too caught up in Beatty's plan to electrify the Salt Lake, says Caesar. Too busy playing allies with the others. I should have never let them separate us, Peeta burst out. That's when I lost her. When you stayed at the lightning tree, and she and Joanna Mason took the coil of wire down to the water, Caesar clarifies. I didn't want to. Peeta flushes in agitation. But I couldn't argue with Beatty without indicating we were about to break away from the Alliance. When that wire was cut, everything just went insane. I can only remember bits and pieces. Trying to find her, watching Brutus kill Chaff, killing Brutus myself. I know she was calling my name. Then the lightning bolt hit the tree, and the force field around the arena blew out. Katniss blew it out, Peeta, says Caesar. You've seen the footage. She didn't know what she was doing. None of us could follow Beatty's plan. You can see her trying to figure out what to do with that wire. Peeta snaps back. All right. It just looks suspicious, says Caesar, as if she was part of the rebels' plan all along. Peeta's on his feet, leaning into Caesar's face, hands locked on the arms of his interviewer's chair. Really? And was it part of her plan for Joanna to nearly kill her? For that electric shock to paralyze her? To trigger the bombing? He's yelling now. She didn't know, Caesar. Neither of us knew anything except that we were trying to keep each other alive. Caesar places his hand on Peeta's chest in a gesture that's both self-protective and conciliatory. Okay, Peeta, I believe you. Okay. Peeta withdraws from Caesar, pulling back his hands, running them through his hair, mussing his carefully styled blonde curls. He slumps back in his chair, distraught. Caesar waits a moment, studying Peeta. What about your mentor, Haymitch Abernathy? Peeta's face hardens. I don't know what Haymitch knew. Could he have been part of the conspiracy? Asks Caesar. He never mentioned it, says Peeta. Caesar presses on. What does your heart tell you? That I shouldn't have trusted him, said Peeta. That's all. I haven't seen Haymitch since I attacked him on the hovercraft, leaving long claw marks down his face. I know it's been bad for him here. District 13 strictly forbids any production or consumption of intoxicating beverages, and even the rubbing alcohol in the hospital is kept under lock and key. Finally, Haymitch is being forced into sobriety, with no secret stashes or homebrewed concoctions to ease his transition. They've got him in seclusion until he's dried out, as he's not deemed fit for public display. It must be excruciating, but I lost all my sympathy for Haymitch when I realized how he had deceived us. I hope he's watching the Capitol broadcast now, so he can see that Peeta has cast him off as well. Caesar pats Peeta's shoulder. We can stop now if you want. Was there more to discuss? Says Peeta wryly. I was going to ask your thoughts on the war, but if you're too upset, begins Caesar. Oh, I'm not too upset to answer that. Peeta takes a deep breath and then looks straight into the camera. I want everyone watching, whether you're on the Capitol or on the rebel side, to stop for just a moment and think about what this war could mean for human beings. We almost went extinct fighting one another before. Now our numbers are even fewer, our conditions more tenuous. Is this really what we want to do? Kill ourselves off completely in the hopes that, what, some decent species will inherit the smoking remains of the earth? I'm not sure I'm following, says Caesar. We can't fight one another, Caesar, Peeta explains. There won't be enough of us left to keep going. If everybody doesn't lay down their weapons, and I mean, as in very soon, it's all over anyway. So, you're calling for a ceasefire? Caesar asks. Yes, I'm calling for a ceasefire, says Peeta tiredly. Now why don't we ask the guards to take me back to my quarters so I can build another 100 guardhouses? Caesar turns to the camera. Alright, I think that wraps it up. So back to our regularly scheduled programming. Music plays them out, and then there's a woman reading a list of expected shortages in the capital. Fresh fruit, solar batteries, soap. I watch her with uncharacteristic absorption because I know everyone will be waiting for my reaction to the interview, but there's no way I can process it all so quickly. The joy of seeing Peeta alive and unharmed, his defense of my innocence in collaborating with the rebels, and his undeniable complicity with the capital now that he's called for a ceasefire. Oh, he made it sound as if he were condemning both sides in the war. But at this point, with only minor victories for the rebels, a ceasefire could only result in a return to our previous status, or worse. Behind me, I can hear the accusations against Peeta building. The words traitor, liar, and enemy bounce off the walls. Since I can neither join in the rebels' outrage nor counter it, I decide the best thing to do is clear out. As I reach the door, Coin's voice rises above the others. You have not been dismissed, Soldier Everdeen. One of Coin's men lays a hand on my arm. It's not an aggressive move, really, but after the arena, I react defensively to any unfamiliar touch. I jerk my arm free and take off running down the halls. Behind me, there's a sound. Oh wait, I lost my place. Behind me, there's the sound of a scuffle, but I don't stop. My mind does a quick inventory of my odd little hiding places, and I wind up in the supply closet, curled up against a crate of chalk. You're alive, I whisper, pressing my palms against my cheeks, feeling the smile that's so wide it must look like a grimace. Peeta's alive, and a traitor, but at the moment, I don't care. Not what he says or who he says it for, only that he's still capable of speech. After a while, the door opens and someone slips in. Gale slides down beside me, his nose trickling blood. What happened? I asked. I got in Boggs' way, he answers with a shrug. I use my sleeve to wipe his nose. Watch it. I try to be gentler, patting, not wiping. Which one is he? Oh, you know, Coin's right-hand lackey. The one who tried to stop you. He pushes my hand away. Quit. You'll bleed me to death. The trickle has turned to a steady stream. I give up on the first 8 attempts. You fought with Boggs. No, just blocked the doorway when he tried to follow you. His elbow caught me in the nose, says Gale. They'll probably punish you, I say. Already have. He holds up his wrist. I stare at it, uncomprehendingly. Coin took back my command cuff. I bite my lip, trying to remain serious, but it seems so ridiculous. I'm sorry, Soldier Gale Hawthorne. Don't be, Soldier Katniss Everdeen, he grins. I felt like a jerk walking around with it anyway. We both start laughing. I think it was quite a demotion. This is one of the few good things about 13, getting Gale back. With the pressure of the capital's arranged marriage between Peeta and me gone, we've managed to regain our friendship. He doesn't push it any further, try to kiss me or talk about love. Either I've been too sick, or he's willing to give me space, or he knows it's just too cruel with Peeta in the hands of the capital. Whatever the case, I've got someone to tell my secrets to again. Who are these people? I say. They're us. If we'd had nukes instead of a few lumps of coal, he answers. I like to think 12 wouldn't have abandoned the rest of the rebels back in the dark days, I say. We might have, if it was that, surrender or start a nuclear war, says Gale. In a way, it's remarkable they survived at all. Maybe it's because I still have the ashes of my own district on my shoes, but for the first time, I give the people of 13 something I have withheld from them. Credit. For staying alive against all odds. Their early years must have been terrible, huddled in the chambers beneath the ground after their city was bombed to dust. Population decimated. No possible ally to turn to for aid. Over the past 75 years, they've learned to be self-sufficient, turn their citizens into an army, and built a new society with no help from anyone. They would have been even more powerful if if that pox epidemic hadn't flattened their birth rate and made them so desperate for a new gene pool and breeders. Maybe they are militaristic, overly programmed, and somewhat lacking in a sense of humor. They're here and willing to take on the capital. Still, it took them long enough to show up, I say. It wasn't simple. They had to build up a rebel base in the capital, get some sort of underground organized in the districts, he says. Then they needed someone to set the whole thing in motion. They needed you. They needed PETA too, but they seem to have forgotten that, I say. Gail's expression darkens. PETA might have done a lot of damage tonight. Most of the rebels will dismiss what he said immediately, of course, but there are districts where the resistance is shakier. The ceasefire is clearly President Snow's idea, but it seems so reasonable coming out of PETA's mouth. I'm afraid of Gail's answer, but I ask anyway. Why do you think he said it? He might have been tortured or persuaded. My guess is he made some kind of deal to protect you. He'd put forth the idea of the ceasefire if Snow let him present you as a confused pregnant girl who had no idea what was going on when she was taken prisoner by the rebels. This way, if the districts lose, there's still a chance of leniency for you, if you play it right. I must still look perplexed because Gail delivers the next line very slowly. Katniss, he's still trying to keep you alive. To keep me alive. And then I understand. The games are still on. We have left the arena, but since PETA and I weren't killed, his last wish to preserve my life still stands. His idea is to have me lie low, remain safe and imprisoned, while the war plays out. Then, neither side will really have a cause to kill me. And PETA, if the rebels win, it will be disastrous for him. If the capital wins, who knows? Maybe we'll both be allowed to live, if I play it right, to watch the games go on. Images flash through my mind. The spear-piercing Rue's body in the arena. Gil hanging senseless from the whipping post. The corpse-littered wasteland of my home. And for what? For what? As my blood turns hot, I remember other things. My first glimpse of an uprising in District 8. The victors locked hand in hand the night before the Quarter Quell. And how it was no accident, my shooting that arrow into the force field in the arena. How badly I wanted it to lodge deep into the heart of the enemy. I sprang up, upsetting a box of 100 pencils, sending them scattering around the floor. What is it? Gil asks. There can't be a ceasefire. I lean down, fumbling as I shove the sticks of dark gray graphite back into the box. We can't go back. I know. Gil sweeps up a handful of pencils and taps them on the floor into perfect alignment. Whatever reason PETA had for saying those things, he's wrong. The stupid sticks won't go in the box and I snap several in my frustration. I know. Give it here. You're breaking them into bits. He pulls the box from my hands and refills it with swift, concise motions. He doesn't know what they did to 12. If he could have seen what was on the ground, I start. Katniss, I'm not arguing. If I could hit a button and kill every living soul working for the capital, I would do it, without hesitation. He slides the last pencil into the box and flips the lid closed. The question is, what are you going to do? It turns out the question that's been eating away at me has only had ever one possible answer. But it took PETA's ploy for me to recognize it. What am I going to do? I take a deep breath. My arms rise slightly, as if recalling the black and white wings Cinna gave me, then come to rest at my sides. I'm going to be the Mockingjay. And that is the end of Chapter 2 of Mockingjay from the Hunger Games series. I hope you all have enjoyed this video. I'm sorry if it was a little choppy. There's a lot more interruptions in the daytime than there is at nighttime. But I hope you enjoyed nonetheless. Don't forget to check me out on all my socials. Check out my Patreon if you enjoy reading content. this on Patreon right now. Let me know what you thought of this chapter in the comments. And I will see you. I will see you in my next